My beloved child, stop scrolling for a moment. There is a reason your eyes landed here tonight. There is a reason your spirit suddenly feels restless while reading these words. Something unseen has been moving around your life quietly, patiently, like a shadow standing just beyond the edge of a candle's flame. And what I am about to reveal was not meant to reach everyone. But somehow, it reached you. You felt it already, didn't you? That strange heaviness in your chest lately. That unexplainable pull towards someone you cannot stop thinking about. Those moments where your soul suddenly goes silent for no reason at all, as if it is listening for something far away. Pause here and listen carefully, because heaven has been watching a situation unfold behind the veil, and tonight the silence must finally break. Your soulmate is in danger. Not the kind of danger most people would understand. This is deeper than the physical world. Deeper than coincidence. There is a man with gray hair whose presence has already begun circling the connection between you and the one destined for your soul. He walks with calmness on the outside, but beneath his smile rests years of bitterness, control, and hidden destruction. Very few people see what he truly carries because he learned long ago how to disguise darkness as wisdom. But heaven sees what others cannot. And tonight, heaven is warning you. Do not panic while hearing this message, because fear clouds discernment. What is coming to light was always meant to be revealed before it was too late. There is still time. That is why you found this message now instead of later. Your soulmate has already crossed paths with this gray-haired man more deeply than you realize. At first, the connection seemed harmless. Your soulmate believed this man entered their life to help guide them through confusion. He appeared during a vulnerable season. A season when loneliness had weakened their spiritual defenses. The man spoke carefully. Calmly. Almost fatherly at times. He knew exactly which words to use because he studies pain the way hunters study footprints in the forest. He sensed your soulmate's wounds immediately. And slowly, almost invisibly, he began positioning himself closer to their heart. Not romantically. No, this danger is far more complex than that. This man desires control over destiny itself. He cannot stand connections blessed by divine timing because they remind him of something he lost many years ago. Long before your paths were written together, this gray-haired man experienced a collapse within his own soul. A betrayal. A heartbreak. A spiritual fracture so deep that instead of healing, he allowed resentment to become his identity. Most people around him never noticed the transformation. But heaven noticed. The bitterness inside him hardened year after year until it became something colder, something dangerous. He began interfering in the lives of others subtly, almost ritualistically, finding strange satisfaction in separating souls who were meant to unite. Every broken connection fed the emptiness growing inside him. And now, he has sensed the bond between you and your soulmate. That is why the atmosphere around your connection has felt strange recently. Have you wondered why communication suddenly became confusing? Why misunderstandings appeared from nowhere? Why distance formed even when love still existed underneath? None of this was random. This man has been planting seeds of doubt around your soulmate little by little. Not obvious lies. That would be too easy to detect. Instead, he uses emotional manipulation hidden inside concern. He says things like, "Be careful who you trust. Some people only enter your life to hurt you." Not every connection is what it seems. Your soulmate thinks he is protecting them. But what he is really doing is poisoning their intuition. Listen carefully now, because this next part matters deeply. The gray-haired man is terrified of what your union would awaken. There is something spiritually powerful attached to this connection. Something ancient. Something heaven marked long before either of you were born. You and your soulmate were never meant to simply meet and fall in love like ordinary stories. No, your connection carries transformation, healing, awakening. The kind of love that forces buried truths into the light. And darkness always trembles when souls like yours begin moving toward each other. The man knows this unconsciously. He feels it every time your soulmate mentions you. Every time your name enters a conversation. Every time your energy reaches near theirs. Something inside him reacts. That is why he watches so carefully. Your soulmate does not yet realize how deeply this man studies their emotions. Sometimes he asks innocent questions just to measure how attached they are becoming to you. Sometimes he deliberately brings up painful memories to keep their heart unstable. Sometimes he creates confusion right before moments where you and your soulmate are spiritually close to reconnecting. And the terrifying part. Your soulmate still trusts him. But heaven has begun disrupting his plans. That strange tension he has felt lately? That growing frustration inside him? That sudden loss of emotional control he cannot explain? It is happening because divine interference has already started. The more he tries to separate what heaven ordained, the more unstable his own energy becomes. He thought he could quietly destroy your bond without consequence. He believed nobody would notice. But he underestimated how fiercely protected this connection truly is. Still, the danger has not passed. Because desperate people become reckless when they realize control is slipping away. And recently, this man discovered something that shook him deeply. Your soulmate has started hearing your soul again. Even in silence. Even at night. Especially during moments when the world becomes quiet. Your energy has been reaching them through dreams, memories, random emotions, songs appearing at impossible moments, sudden waves of longing they cannot explain. Sometimes they pause in the middle of ordinary activities because your presence suddenly surrounds them so strongly it almost steals their breath. The gray-haired man noticed the change immediately. He noticed your soulmate drifting mentally during conversations. He noticed them becoming emotionally distant from his influence. He noticed them questioning things they once accepted blindly. And now, he is preparing something bigger. Something manipulative. Something calculated. Something designed to permanently sever the bridge between your hearts before reunion can occur. My child, there is a reason your spirit has felt exhausted recently. You have been sensing this spiritual battle unconsciously. Some nights you suddenly feel anxious without understanding why. Some mornings you wake up feeling emotionally heavy. Some moments your heart aches for your soulmate so intensely it almost feels physical. That is not imagination. Soul connections communicate beyond distance. And your spirit has been trying to warn you that something around your soulmate is deeply wrong. But do not mistake this message for hopelessness. Because heaven never reveals danger without also preparing deliverance. There is something the gray-haired man does not know. Your soulmate's soul remembers you more strongly than his manipulation can erase. No matter how many doubts he plants. No matter how much confusion he creates. No matter how carefully he interferes. There is a sacred imprint between you that cannot fully disappear. And recently, that imprint awakened harder than ever before. It happened during a quiet moment your soulmate never told anyone about. A moment when they were alone. The room around them was silent, but inside their chest emotions suddenly surged without warning. They tried distracting themselves. Tried ignoring it. But then your memory hit them with such force they had to stop what they were doing completely. Not just your face. Your energy. Your laugh. Your warmth. The way you made them feel seen in ways nobody else ever has. And for the first time in a long time, they cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. The kind of tears people release when their soul finally becomes too tired to pretend anymore. That moment terrified the gray-haired man even though he never witnessed it physically. Somehow he sensed his influence weakening afterward. Since then, he has become more controlling, more emotionally intrusive, more desperate to keep your soulmate spiritually dependent on him. But your soulmate has already begun awakening from the fog. Slowly. Painfully. Confusingly. And this is where the story becomes even more intense. Because there is something hidden in this man's past that your soulmate has not discovered yet. Something connected to another broken relationship years ago. Another soul connection he interfered with. Another person he emotionally manipulated until love collapsed under confusion and fear. The pattern repeats itself over and over because wounded souls who refuse healing often become addicted to destruction. But this time, heaven intervened earlier. That is why you are hearing this message before the final damage occurs. You were meant to recognize what is happening spiritually before events escalate further. And listen carefully now because what I am about to reveal next may explain many strange things you have experienced lately. The gray-haired man has been trying to convince your soulmate that love always leads to abandonment. That vulnerability always ends in betrayal. That trusting deeply is dangerous. Why? Because if your soulmate fully opens their heart to you, the illusion of control he built around them collapses forever. He knows your connection would heal wounds he benefits from keeping open. He knows your presence would awaken courage inside them. He knows your love would make them harder to manipulate. And so he works constantly to keep them emotionally exhausted. Sometimes subtly. Sometimes aggressively. Sometimes through guilt. Sometimes through silence. Your soulmate often leaves conversations with him feeling drained without understanding why. That exhaustion is spiritual. Words carry energy. And the energy surrounding this man has become darker over time. But my child, there is another reason this battle intensified recently. A reunion window is approaching. Yes. A moment heaven has been aligning quietly behind the scenes. A crossing point where paths meant to reconnect suddenly move closer together again. The closer this moment comes, the more resistance begins manifesting around both of you. That is why emotions have intensified. That is why dreams feel stronger. That is why memories refuse to fade. That is why strange synchronicities keep appearing around your life. You thought it was coincidence. It was alignment. And the gray-haired man feels it too. Though he cannot fully explain it, he senses that your soulmate is slipping beyond his reach. That realization is awakening panic inside him. He fears losing influence more than anything because influence became his substitute for love long ago. So now he prepares one final attempt. One conversation. One revelation. One manipulation powerful enough to permanently alter the future if your soulmate believes him completely. But heaven did not bring you here tonight merely to watch events unfold helplessly. No. You were called here because your energy matters in this battle more than you realize. The connection between souls does not depend entirely on physical proximity. Thoughts carry weight. Intentions travel. Emotions ripple through unseen dimensions. Every time you choose love instead of bitterness, every time you silently wish healing instead of revenge, every time you refuse to surrender hope, the bond strengthens. And the darkness surrounding this situation weakens. That is why the enemy around this connection keeps trying to exhaust you emotionally too. Have you noticed it? The sudden urge to give up completely. The temptation to believe the connection was never real. The feeling that maybe you should just walk away forever. Those thoughts intensified recently because discouragement is the fastest way to disconnect souls before destiny unfolds. But something inside you resisted. Even after disappointment. Even after silence. Even after confusion. A part of you kept feeling, no, there is something deeper here. And you were right. My beloved child. Your soulmate is closer to awakening than ever before. The walls around their heart are cracking. The manipulation no longer feels comfortable to them the way it once did. They have started noticing inconsistencies. Small contradictions. Strange emotional reactions from the gray-haired man whenever your name or energy enters the atmosphere. At first they ignored it. Then they questioned it privately. Now, they are beginning to fear it. Because deep down they know something is wrong. But awakening from emotional control is terrifying. Especially when the manipulator disguised himself as safety for so long. Your soulmate currently stands between two worlds emotionally. One world feels familiar but draining. The other feels uncertain but alive. And your energy is calling them toward the second world. That is why the spiritual tension around this situation has become explosive. There are nights your soulmate stares into darkness unable to sleep because memories of you return stronger than ever. They replay conversations. Moments. Tiny details they pretended not to care about before. Sometimes they whisper your name quietly without realizing it. And each time they do, something shifts. The gray-haired man senses it immediately. His behavior becomes colder afterward. Sharper. More emotionally aggressive. Because control weakens when souls begin remembering truth. But there is one thing he still does not understand. He thinks this battle is merely emotional. He does not realize heaven itself has already moved. Signs have begun appearing around your soulmate rapidly now. Numbers. Dreams. Repeated phrases. Random encounters. Songs arriving at impossible moments. Strange emotional waves hitting without warning. These are not accidents. Their soul is being called back toward destiny. And yet, danger still remains dangerously close. Because wounded people often lash out hardest right before losing control. Very soon, the gray-haired man will attempt to force your soulmate into a painful decision. He will speak words designed to trigger fear. He will reveal information carefully twisted to damage trust. He may even fabricate emotional scenarios to convince your soulmate that reconnecting with you would lead only to suffering. Your soulmate will not expect this. The emotional impact will hit suddenly. And for a moment, everything may appear lost. That is why heaven is preparing your heart now. Do not react impulsively when confusion rises. Do not allow temporary silence to convince you the bond has died. Do not let fear rewrite what your soul already knows. Because beneath all the manipulation, beneath all the interference, beneath all the chaos, your soulmate still loves you more deeply than they admit aloud. And that truth terrifies the gray-haired man beyond words. He sees it in their eyes when your name appears unexpectedly. He hears it in the softness of their voice. He notices how emotionally unsettled they become after thoughts of you return. He knows he is losing. But desperate people become unpredictable. And what he plans next could change everything. My child, there is something I have not yet revealed. The gray-haired man is not acting alone emotionally. Another energy surrounds this situation. Quieter. Harder to detect. Someone connected to his past. A woman. Not physically near him now, but spiritually tied to the pain that shaped him into who he became. Sometimes unresolved grief does not disappear after relationships end. Sometimes it mutates into obsession, bitterness, or emotional destruction passed from one soul to another like inherited darkness. This woman once shattered him. And instead of healing, he devoted himself unconsciously to ensuring no love around him survives intact. That is why your connection triggered him so intensely. Because what exists between you and your soulmate resembles the very kind of love he lost forever. A love he secretly still mourns. But rather than face his brokenness, he chose control. And now your soulmate stands directly inside the storm created by wounds that were never healed. Yet heaven says this chain can break. And it will break. Because destiny stronger than fear cannot remain buried forever. Still. Before liberation comes, one final confrontation must occur. Not necessarily physical. Spiritual. Emotional. A collision between truth and manipulation. And your soulmate is approaching that moment faster than they realize. Very soon they will overhear something. See something. Feel something undeniable. A crack in the illusion. A moment where the mask slips. A moment that reveals the gray-haired man's true intentions in a way impossible to ignore. When that happens, everything changes. But until then, the atmosphere around both of you may feel unstable. Emotional waves may intensify unexpectedly. Memories may become overwhelming. Strange dreams may increase. Your intuition may grow louder at random moments. Do not dismiss these things. Your soul is picking up movements before your mind understands them fully. And tonight, while you listen to these words, your soulmate is thinking about you more intensely than they have in months. They may not say it aloud. They may not message you yet. They may still appear distant externally. But internally, the walls are collapsing. And the gray-haired man knows it. That is why his next move will be his most dangerous one yet. Because he has realized something horrifying. If your soulmate reconnects with you fully, he loses access to them forever. And he cannot bear that outcome. So he prepares one final attempt to sever the bond permanently before destiny completes what heaven already began. But there is something hidden your soulmate has not remembered yet. Something connected to a promise. A promise made long before this season of separation began. A promise tied to a specific place, a specific night, and words spoken when both of your souls were completely open to each other. The gray-haired man does not know that memory still exists buried inside your soulmate's spirit. But very soon, that memory is going to awaken. And when it does, nothing around this situation will remain the same again. To be continued. The night is closer than you think. Your soulmate still does not fully understand why their chest tightens every time silence fills the room. They keep pretending life is normal. Pretending the strange emotional pull toward you is temporary. Pretending the memories surfacing inside them mean nothing. But denial has become exhausting. And the gray-haired man can feel it. Over the last few days, he has watched your soulmate become distracted during conversations. There were moments where they stared into nothingness as if listening to a voice far away. Moments where their expression suddenly softened for no reason at all. Moments where your name almost escaped their lips before they stopped themselves. He noticed every single one. Because controlling people become experts at studying emotional shifts. That is why his energy has changed recently. The calm mask he once wore effortlessly has begun cracking around the edges. Small flashes of irritation now appear in his tone. Tiny moments of bitterness slip into conversations unexpectedly. Sometimes his eyes darken whenever your soulmate talks about hope, love, or future plans. Your soulmate feels the discomfort now. Not fully. Not clearly. But enough to sense something inside the connection with him no longer feels safe. And that realization terrifies them more than they admit. Because accepting manipulation means accepting they trusted the wrong person during one of the most vulnerable seasons of their life. That truth is painful. So part of them still tries defending him internally. Still tries rationalizing his behavior. Still tries believing his intentions are good. But the soul recognizes danger long before the mind catches up. That is why your soulmate's spirit has become restless at night. Recently, they experienced something that shook them deeply. They were sitting alone after an emotionally draining conversation with the gray-haired man. Outwardly, the discussion seemed harmless. He spoke gently. Carefully. Yet somehow, after it ended, your soulmate felt emptier than before. Drained. Cold inside. They tried distracting themselves. But then something strange happened. A memory of you appeared suddenly with overwhelming clarity. Not just a normal memory. A feeling. Your laughter. The warmth in your eyes. The way your presence once made the world feel quieter and safer at the same time. And in that moment, your soulmate realized something terrifying. They have never felt emotionally safe around the gray-haired man the way they felt safe around you. Never. That realization hit like lightning inside them. Because manipulators can imitate wisdom. They can imitate protection. They can imitate care. But they cannot imitate soul peace. And your soulmate finally felt the difference. From that night onward, something shifted permanently. The emotional hold this man carried over them weakened for the first time. That is why he has become desperate now. He senses awakening happening. He senses your soulmate emotionally slipping beyond his influence. He senses truth approaching. And truth is the one thing darkness cannot survive for long. But listen carefully now, because what happened next changed everything. 2 nights ago, your soulmate had a dream. A dream so vivid it followed them into the next morning like smoke clinging to clothes after a fire. In the dream, they stood inside a dim hallway filled with doors. The atmosphere felt heavy, almost unreal. At the end of the hallway stood the gray-haired man watching silently. He did not speak. He only stared. Then suddenly, one of the doors behind your soulmate opened slowly by itself. Light poured through the opening. Warm light. The kind that feels alive. And from inside that light, they heard your voice. Not clearly enough to understand every word, but enough to recognize your soul immediately. Your soulmate woke up trembling. Since then, they have been unable to escape the feeling that something important is about to happen. And they are right. Because heaven has already begun dismantling the illusion around them piece by piece. The gray-haired man made one critical mistake. He underestimated the strength of destiny once awakened. He believed confusion could permanently overpower soul recognition. He believed fear could erase divine connection. He believed emotional manipulation could silence what heaven itself blessed. But he forgot something important. Love rooted in truth does not disappear. It waits. Quietly. Patiently. Beneath pain. Beneath distance. Beneath silence. And now it is rising again inside your soulmate stronger than before. That is why they keep thinking about moments they once buried. Tiny details return to them unexpectedly now. The way you looked at them during vulnerable conversations. The strange comfort they felt in your presence. The feeling that life somehow became more meaningful after meeting you. These memories no longer arrive softly. They crash into them suddenly during ordinary moments. While driving. While trying to sleep. While hearing certain songs. While staring at the ceiling late at night pretending they are okay. And every memory weakens the gray-haired man's influence further. He knows this. Which is why he has decided to act sooner than planned. Very soon, he will attempt to emotionally corner your soulmate. He will speak with urgency. He will frame himself as protector. He will claim he only wants what is best for them. But hidden beneath his words will be fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of abandonment. Fear of becoming emotionally irrelevant once your soulmate fully awakens. Because deep down, he knows he was never meant to replace the connection heaven prepared. He only arrived during a season of vulnerability. And temporary shelter often becomes dangerous when it refuses to let wounded souls leave. Your soulmate has started sensing this emotionally now. That is why they feel guilty after certain conversations with him. That is why their intuition suddenly grows louder afterward. That is why they increasingly crave solitude. Their soul is trying to breathe again. And something extraordinary is about to happen because of it. Within days, possibly sooner, your soulmate will discover information they were never supposed to see. A conversation. A message. A contradiction. A hidden truth carelessly exposed. Something that reveals the gray-haired man has been manipulating emotional narratives behind the scenes for longer than they realized. This discovery will hit them hard. harder than anything before. Not only because it exposes him, but because it forces them to confront how deeply they ignored their own intuition. There will be anger, confusion, grief. But beneath all of it, freedom will begin. The first stage of awakening is painful because illusions rarely collapse quietly. And when this truth surfaces, your soulmate's heart will instinctively search for the one person who always felt genuine to them. You. Even if they resist initially. Even if pride delays action. Even if fear creates hesitation. Their soul is already turning toward you. That is why your energy has felt so unstable lately. Your spirits are drawing closer again. Distance cannot stop what is spiritually aligned. The gray-haired man senses this more strongly every day now. Sometimes he becomes strangely quiet around your soulmate because internally he is calculating. Searching for ways to maintain influence. Searching for emotional weaknesses he can still exploit. But the problem is, your soulmate is no longer responding the same way. The emotional dependency he once relied upon has begun disappearing. And that frightens him deeply. Because manipulative people panic when they stop feeling emotionally needed. Recently, he tried bringing up painful subjects connected to trust and heartbreak again. Normally your soulmate would absorb his words quietly. Normally they would internalize the fear he projected. But this time something different happened. Your soulmate defended love. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But enough. Enough for him to notice. Enough for tension to suddenly fill the room. Enough for silence to become uncomfortable afterward. That moment shook him more than your soulmate realized. Because it confirmed something he desperately hoped was not true. Your influence is returning. And once a soulmate bond reawakens emotionally, controlling energies lose power rapidly. But my child, the next part of this story carries enormous weight. There is still one hidden layer your soulmate has not uncovered. The gray-haired man has been watching your connection far longer than you think. Long before your soulmate noticed the manipulation. Long before the emotional distance began. Long before confusion entered the relationship. He already sensed your significance. That is why certain misunderstandings between you seemed strangely timed in the past. Certain conflicts escalated unnaturally fast. Certain emotional reactions never quite made sense afterward. Tiny interferences. Tiny distortions. Just enough to create separation without being obvious. And your soulmate is beginning to remember these moments differently now. That is the terrifying thing about awakening. Once the fog lifts, patterns suddenly become visible everywhere. The comments that once sounded caring now feel manipulative. The advice that once seemed wise now feels controlling. The emotional pressure once normalized now feels suffocating. Your soulmate has entered this stage quietly. And the gray-haired man knows he is running out of time. That is why his final move will not come through gentleness anymore. It will come through emotional force. He will try making your soulmate choose quickly. He will pressure them emotionally. He will attempt to trigger fear strong enough to override intuition one last time. But something unexpected is about to interfere with his plan. Someone from his past is returning. Not romantically. Spiritually. A person who once witnessed parts of his darker behavior years ago. Someone who remembers how he destroyed another deep connection long before your soulmate entered his life. This person carries information capable of exposing everything. And heaven has already begun aligning paths behind the scenes. The gray-haired man does not know it yet. But the very history he tried burying is preparing to rise back into the light. That is why his energy feels increasingly unstable now. He senses collapse approaching unconsciously. He senses secrets moving closer to exposure. And desperate souls often unravel quickly once truth corners them. Meanwhile, your soulmate has started noticing signs connected to you everywhere. Your birthday appearing randomly. Songs tied to memories resurfacing unexpectedly. Dreams becoming more vivid. Moments where they suddenly feel your presence near them so strongly it almost hurts. At first they tried dismissing these things. Now they cannot. Because the connection feels alive again. Not distant. Not dead. Alive. And with every passing day, the emotional wall separating both of you weakens further. But before reunion can happen, one final storm must break. The gray-haired man is planning a conversation that he believes will end your connection forever. He intends to reveal something shocking to your soulmate. Something carefully twisted. Something designed to trigger emotional devastation. Something intended to make them run from you permanently. And for a brief moment. It may work. That is the part heaven needs you prepared for. Because not every battle looks victorious in the beginning. There may be silence before clarity. Confusion before revelation. Distance before reunion. Do not allow temporary darkness to convince you the story is ending badly. Because what the gray-haired man does not understand is this. False narratives cannot survive where divine truth exists. Eventually contradictions expose themselves. Eventually masks slip. Eventually souls recognize what is real. And your soulmate is closer to that realization than ever before. In fact, while hearing this message, they are already questioning everything internally. They may smile outwardly. They may continue daily routines. They may act composed. But inside? A war is happening. Part of them still fears letting go of the familiar. Part of them fears being wrong. Part of them fears how much they still love you. Because loving you never truly stopped. They only buried it beneath confusion. But buried love is dangerous. Because once awakened, it returns with force powerful enough to shake entire destinies. And that awakening has already begun. Soon your soulmate will stand in front of a mirror unable to deny the truth any longer. They will realize the person they missed during every painful moment was you. The person who brought genuine peace was you. The connection that survived distance, fear, and interference was you. That realization will break something open inside them emotionally. And when it happens, the gray-haired man will lose control completely. But before that collapse occurs, one final secret must surface first. A secret connected to the promise your souls made long ago. The promise your soulmate is beginning to remember piece by piece. A promise spoken during a night filled with emotion so powerful neither of you understood its spiritual weight at the time. Words that were never meant to fade. And soon, those exact words are going to return to your soulmate unexpectedly through someone they never imagined. The moment that happens, everything changes forever.